It is Monday, October 21st, 2024. Welcome back to another edition of Baseball Today. This is a World Series edition, and Chris Rose still out in London. I think he's just traversing around Europe doing his thing with his beautiful bride, Michelle. But in his place, we have Jolly, Olive, and Jolly. Thank you for coming on. Producer Dan, obviously along for the ride as well. This one's brought to you by SeatGeek. Use code JohnBoyPlayoffs10 for 10% off your purchase. Doesn't matter if you've done it already. You'll still get that 10%. And by the way, World Series tickets, they're pricey. You need to use this code JohnBoyPlayoffs10. Jolly, jolly, jolly. I think I have an idea of how you're going to answer this question, but how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing okay. Chris Rose, he saw his team get eliminated and he ran away to another country. Me, I face the music, man. I'm up for it. I'm good. I mean, Dodgers are a hell of a team, obviously. They took down my New York Mets, and we got quite the World Series to preview. But I thought I'd wear my Floorball Champs shirt because it's the only banner I get to celebrate this year.
Okay.
I don't know if you knew about that.
I didn't notice that, and now I'm mad.
Sorry.
Spoiler alert, if you didn't watch it, Floorball 3, it was Jolly and Hookline versus me and Forgotten Rotten, and there's the T-shirt.
Yeah.
We're going to do a more comprehensive World Series preview, I believe, on Wednesday. We're kind of going over the schedule now. This episode will kind of be recapping the CSs and just, a few things that we saw. Just, wrapping up everything, a nice little bow around it. Like I said, we'll probably do the World Series preview Wednesday and then another little hey, the World Series is here episode on Friday. So be on the lookout for that. I believe Jolly's going to be with us throughout the week, and then Chris Rose will return, I think on Saturday or whenever it is. I actually don't even know when he's going to come back. He might not ever come back.
Yeah, the answer's never.
But we're going to start this show like we always do with a tip of the cap, and this one goes to our guy, John Sterling. He's been back calling the Yankee games during the playoffs. He's been there since 1989. Is that right? That's a long time ago. I don't know what it is. He's been there a long time, but here's him calling the final out of the ALCS.
It'll be a 1-2. Swung on a high fly to right. Soto is there. Juan Soto makes the catch. Ball game over. American League Championship Series over. Yankees win. The Yankees win.
So I love John Sterling, and I didn't know how much I love John Sterling until kind of like these playoffs. There's been a few times where I've been out like coaching, so I haven't been able to have the game on to start. So I'll just put my AirPods in and listen to his radio call, so I keep up with the games. And man, it's so fun. It's different than any other radio broadcast I've listened to. It's not always about the game. Like there's a lot of like auxiliary talk going on between him and Susan, who's great as well. So I have a stat here: 5,060 consecutive games for the Yankees from 1989 until he took 4 games off from July 4th until July 7th in 2019. That's an insane stat. But our tip of the cap goes to you, John Sterling, because you crush it, man. And we're happy that you're back calling games.
Well,
you got anything on John?
Yeah, I mean, it's always cool when the voice of the team is as big a fan as the fans listening to that voice, and it's so clear that even at that old age and him contemplating retirement, that he's still as into it as he was 30 years ago. So I get I know he's divisive among some fan bases. Like some fan bases are I don't like the catchphrases, I don't get it, but if you're a Yankee fan, that's the voice you grew up with. It's what you're used to. And I think having him on this run makes that run all the more special for Yankees fans. Imagine if he kind of stayed away, and they put together this magic run and he wasn't around for it. I think that's the final puzzle piece of the Yankees going for a World Series here.
Love it. All right, let's get into the show. Dodgers last night, they take down the Mets 10-5. They win the NLCS in 6 games. They advance to the World Series for the first time since 2020. I believe before that it was 2018 in a full season. And then before that it was 88. Someone fact check me. I believe that's what it is. They did it with an unusual guy in the cleanup spot. Our guy Tommy Edman had a big night.
Edman drives this ball deep left center field. Back goes Nimmo. Clean up Tommy Edman. A two-run blast. On the verge of making it all happen. There's a bouncing ball to second. Taylor's got it. Los Angeles is alive, and they're headed to the World Series. Dodgers, Yankees in the Fall Classic.
Now, Tommy Edman, who ends up winning the NLCS, he'd only batted cleanup twice in his career, and it was both with the Dodgers this year. You see him batting fourth in that lineup behind, some Hall of Famers, and it's just very interesting to see. But he was a huge part of why they took the series from the Mets, and I think that's what we'll kind of do today. More so than anything, is just kind of go over the series and how the Dodgers did it. I think I have a theory on it. I want to kind of hear your take on it. When I watched this series, I believed it was the series of, runners in scoring position.
Mm-hmm.
The Dodgers came through. They put up crooked numbers. I've been on, our programs telling people how difficult it is for a team to overcome, those big innings like that. 2, 3, 4 runs an inning. It just really – it takes the wind out of your sails as a team. And the Dodgers, they did that all series long. And I think the Mets, for their part, they had their chances during the series, and they sometimes got the big hit and they won those games, but for the most part didn't get the big hit. I think that was the difference. Tommy Edman's in the 2024 postseason, Jolly. 341 average, 3 doubles, a homer, 12 runs driven in. Already. What do you think? What do you think the Dodgers did better than the Mets overall in this series?
I think you nailed the runners in scoring position thing, because that's how the Mets got here, like clutch hitting, timely hitting, and they, much like the Padres in the NLDS, they had opportunities at the end and could not find the big hit. And I think that's, partly running out of steam, but also partly the Dodgers pitching it's coming at you at so many different angles. It's coming at you with so many different types of pitches that it's really hard to keep up. They've got a talented system, and I really want to give kudos to Dave Roberts, who has gotten a ton of guff in his tenure as Dodgers manager for costly pitching changes and mid-game decisions that get scrutinized for months. I thought he managed Game 6 perfectly. I thought he pulled guys at the right time. It was a long game, 3.5-hour game, and part of that was just meticulous managing on both sides, but specifically Dave Roberts there. And in terms of the series itself, I mean, every time the Dodgers won, they blew the doors off the New York Mets, man. It's not like, you can point to one moment in any of those games and say, this is where the Mets lost. The Dodgers offense just doesn't stop. When you have a top 3 like that, and even when you're able to neutralize them, you still got 6 guys behind them that can all get the job done. And a big thing in making any deep playoff run is that guys need to perform above their pay grade. And there's no one more emblematic of that than Tommy Edman, who's hitting 400 in the playoffs and set the RBI record for any Dodger in any postseason run ever. That's the kind of stuff you need to happen. You can have all the talent in the world, all the money spent in the world, but it's about certain guys in certain moments coming through in big spots. And Tommy Edman was their guy this series. It might be someone totally different in the World Series, but point being, when you have the ammunition behind your stars, it's going to be a lot easier for you to wrap up these series. And for the Dodgers, I thought the Mets gave them a good fight, but it was clear from, the games at Citi Field, this was a much more talented team. This was a deeper team. This was a team that was seasoned with playoff experience compared to the Mets. And I think you really saw it in the final 4 games of the series.
So I disagree with you a little bit about the Dodgers being just so much more wildly talented. I would give them the edge, but I think the Mets had a very good roster. I really do. I mean, you could talk about the timely hitting, and obviously you have to have that. But I think their roster was better than a lot of people would give them credit for. And I think we're gonna see that in the upcoming years. I do. I think the Mets are. We'll get to them. But I think they're in a very, very good place. The series was strange. Talk about there wasn't really, a close back and forth game. In fact, Jolly, and I didn't know this. I mean, I watched all the games, but it didn't register. The first lead change in the series happened at the bottom of the first in Game 6. So Mets went out and got ahead, and Dodgers answered with 2 on the Tommy Edman double. It was 40 consecutive innings without a lead change. That is it felt weird, and it was I said all along, we're going over these games like who's going to win tonight, and I just said I don't know. And a lot of times you have an opinion and you have a lean or a feel. I did not have one in this series whatsoever, and I think it's okay to say that. Like, that's in my mind. I'm not going to just say things to say things. I don't know how to do that. I did not have a lean in this series. Even last night, I was talking to some guys like, "What's going to happen?" I said, "Dude, if Shamania comes out and goes 7 scoreless, like, which he can very easily, like, the Mets could easily win this game." And if the Dodgers come out and bang the ball around, like, it to me was a very difficult series to handicap. But in the end, it really was, I think, the difference was the Dodgers being kind of relentless. And you could talk about Shohei being 18 for his last 22 when runners are on, or whatever the ridiculous stat is. But that was the difference. And I think you're right about Dave Roberts. Managing 2 bullpen games, he's gonna have to do it again in the World Series. That's where managers make their money, is doing that. So you have to give him some snaps and applaud this Dodgers team who, they had a lot of expectations coming into the year, and here they are in the World Series.
Yeah, I mean, well put there, dude. Like, not too much to add on top of that. Just great relief performances. They got a great start out of Jack Flaherty in Game 1, kind of set the tone for their series. Walker Buehler bounced back in his start, got some really clutch outs. And yeah, hats off, man. And we're getting the World Series that feels like we've been building for the past almost 10 years at this point, between the Yankees and the Dodgers. And now these two teams are at their highest star potential and most powerful, maybe. So it's going to be interesting.
Okay, now we'll go to the other side, the Mets side. We'll kind of dive into here. They're going home. I think they should have their heads held high. A lot of ups and downs throughout the season. They proved a lot of people wrong. We're going to really get into this. Let's listen to what Brandon Nimmo had to say after the game.
When you look back at the season that we've had and what we've done from the beginning till now, I think there's a lot to be proud of. It's hard to think about it now because you're 2 wins away from extending your season and getting to the World Series, and you never know with this stuff. So you don't want to think, well, there's always next year, because I think you should try and take advantage of the opportunity that you have in front of you, and you don't know when the next one's going to come.
Shout out Wyoming right there. That's like a sneaky, awesome, like, thinking about him growing up in Cheyenne, Wyoming, and being a star with the New York Mets is pretty cool. The Mets, like, they had a lot this year. A lot, like I said, kind of like a roller coaster of a year. Started out 0-5. Everyone knows about that. 11 games under 500. Then they went on this crazy run. They had the extra, like, the Monday after the season ends, they're playing the Atlanta Braves because of a hurricane. The wild card series against the Brewers, which people have already, kind of put behind them, but, like, what a crazy series that was. They beat the Phillies. I guess I'm going to throw this one to you, and I think people want to know, like, how you're feeling, a final state of the union for Mets fans in 2024. What do you got?
Yeah, I mean, hodgepodge of emotions, and a lot of them are sad, obviously. I'm not going to sugarcoat the way I feel. You can tell by my tone, all that stuff. And, there will be months and months and months to talk about next year and what they did and what they're building and the payroll and the free agents and all that stuff. But I think Brandon Nimmo's words there, I think that was a perfect choice for the clip to show, because, this is there's always next year kind of franchise. Like, this is a franchise where fans don't really feel like they're going to win it all every year, and that's starting to change. The fact that Steve Cohen has made the playoffs in half of his years as owner is very unique for Mets fans. We're used to kind of one playoff berth every 10 years. So this change in philosophy has been good, but I'm with Brandon. Like, you shouldn't just redirect and be like, well, we're building something, we're going to be back, because there is no guarantee. It's incredibly hard to make the playoffs, going back to that Braves game after the season ended where the Mets were about to choke it in very Mets style and would have missed the playoffs in all likelihood had they lost that game in the next, to all the heroic wins that got them to this point. Like, it's so much work that goes into building a playoff run, between getting, good pitching and getting those timely hits and not being afraid of the spotlight. Like, it takes a lot to go right, and it took a lot for the Mets to get this far. So to fall a couple wins short is certainly deflating. But they have pieces, man. Like, obviously they have Lindor for the next 8 years. It looks like Mark Vientos is a bona fide star, and we haven't even seen a full season from him yet. They're going to have a lot to figure out on the pitching side, but it's not false to say that this team is going to be very good, and their window looks like it's opening up. But, less than 24 hours removed from it, it's going to sting for everyone, players and fans included.
Okay, so I will take the, let's look ahead kind of route here. Great year. I think I talked to Jake a little bit about this on Talking Baseball. It always starts for me in the Mets with Steve Cohen, because he is such an outlier on the owner's side of things. He's just got more money than any other owner in baseball. And I think you have to put yourself in the mind of a billionaire. Very tough to do. Yeah. I mean, I'm trying here. He can get anything he wants. The one thing that's, he can't get, or maybe he's gotten a little bit now and really likes a taste of, is like kind of like the respect of New Yorkers and Mets fans. Like, they've kind of, I know the Yankees are in the World Series now, but like the Mets are now like very much so a respected franchise, and like he's getting a taste of that, and a lot of dead money coming off the books. 2025 offseason is going to be something crazy. I mean, we got one of the, like, a generational player that's available. Like, the talk about Juan Soto in the New York teams is going to be crazy. But just in general, I think because of this success, the taste that it's left, in Mets fans' mouths, and in particular Steve Cohen's, I think it's going to create even more like a sense of urgency. Like, dude, this was awesome. Like, this feels like a lot of fun. Like, let's go do this. And like you said, it's not guaranteed, dude. It's not just, hey, let's go spend money in free agency and we're going to be here every year. But I think there is some pieces there. There is a core that's being developed there. They're going to have to be very active in free agency. Like you mentioned, they're losing a lot of starting pitching. Obviously, Pete's gone. They're going to have to figure things out, but I don't think it's scary. I think it's fun. I think it's going to be an awesome free agent offseason year for the Mets. So yes, it stings right now. And I don't think this was some Cinderella team. I think this is a very good team with very good chances to get to the World Series. They kind of ran into a buzzsaw. But if I was a Mets fan, I would say, damn, that was a lot of fun. Like, the boys put me on a ride in 2024, and it was awesome. Like, the thrills were there. And now, hey, yeah, we got to watch this World Series. We wish we were there. But once this offseason hits, they're gonna be the talk of the town, bro. And I think you're gonna have a lot of fun this winter. So shout out to the Mets, man. They really did. They put on a show, and this is what it's about, man. It's an entertainment business, and they were entertaining. They were the most entertaining team in baseball. I don't think if you talk about the storylines and all that, it was awesome.
I think you put it really well there about how it's going to be an eventful offseason. I think that's like the bittersweet part of it, is that, the fans got really attached to this roster and all the rallying cries and the gimmicks and stuff like that. But the fact of the matter is, two things are true. The team is going to look very different next year. It's not going to be the same roster. A lot of those guys you love are going to be gone, and the team is going to be better, because there's $170 million coming off the books that they can now spend on this roster, which is basically the gap of money spent between them and the Dodgers that provided the Dodgers the players they needed to get over the hump and win this NLCS. So as bittersweet as it is, with guys like Corbin Burns and Max Fried and Juan Soto available, there's a lot the Mets can do this offseason to make this roster even more impressive, not to mention the prospects that are on the way from the 2023 trade deadline. It's sad because you buy into a team and you love the characters, and not all those guys are going to be back, and that's just the harsh truth of baseball.
Sean Manaea's got to come back.
I hope so.
3 years. Don't call it 75. Give him a little more on top. Give him like 85. 3 years.
I think you get 4 and 80. That'd be nice.
I don't think he's going to take that. I think it's 25. That guy's pitched himself into a 25.
He said he wants to come back. He said he'd love to. That. So did like everyone though. So that's maybe we're both wrong. Who knows?
Okay. Now that Mets fans, the season's over and you're watching these games on your couch the entire postseason, you know what you can do? You can get off your ass. And you can do that with our friends from Mountain Dew. With bold flavors and a refreshing citrus kick, Mountain Dew will get you off your ass and have you feeling like you're on an actual mountain. A mountain where the weather is always perfect. Your friends are ready to hang, and a day of epic proportions awaits. You can do a lot of things when you go outside. That's a fact. You go breathe some fresh air. You play some frisbee, some hacky sack. You can go fishing. You can throw the football around. You can do a little quick toss, a little double play. Get your hands going. You could look like our guys in the middle infield and a big league team. Whatever you do, Mountain Dew should be with you. The mountain's calling, and you should answer. Grab your friends, grab an ice-cold Mountain Dew wherever refreshing beverages are sold, and do the Dew. If you can't find a Mountain Dew, I don't know what to tell you. They are everywhere. Let's go do the Dew, people. And now, Jolly, we are going to move on to the ALCS and talk about the Yanks and the Guards. On Saturday, the Yankees defeated the Guards 5-2 in extra innings to win the ALCS in 5 games. They're advancing to their first World Series since 2009. And once again, the Yankees were led by postseason heroes Giancarlo Stanton and Juan Soto.
What Bybee has in mind here. And a high drive in the left center field. Stanton is going to watch another one fly. Are you kidding me? Giancarlo Stanton made for the moment. Got a steal. Soto, a high fly ball to center. Thomas backing up. Thomas at the track. And Juan Soto! A 3-run home run! Here's the 1-2. Thomas, fly ball right field. Who else should end this game than that man right there? Juan Soto puts it away, and the New York Yankees have won the American League pennant.
It's weird. I saw you like licking your lips when Juan Soto hit that homer.
What are you talking about?
What is that? Strange right there. Now, this series ended up being 4-1 Yankees. It was a little closer than that. It was not some type of blowout series. I mean, the Guardians, man, they're such a fun team to watch. They really are. The way they play ball, and I think a lot of people still consider them, this team that kind of, just plays small ball and does all that. But, like, the reason they moved on in the postseason was because of, like, huge homers by Lane Thomas and David Fry, and like there was a lot of great storylines with the Guardians. I think we could talk about them a little bit before we get into New York. Sorry, Yankees fans. We're gonna talk about you for a lot in the next coming weeks. What are your thoughts on some of the Guardians in the 2024? Like my favorite things about the Guardians, I'm going to talk about it. I love the middle infield combo. I know Rocchio had a few misplays there in the series, but if you watch him and Andres Gimenez work together, I think it's a thing of beauty. I don't know if it sort of reminds of old school middle infield combos working together. That's a weird take maybe, but that's kind of what I think of. I think of the Naylor brothers, like Bo Naylor drove in Josh Naylor in the ALCS against the Yankees for the first run. Like stuff like that was so cool. I thought Tanner Bybee kind of solidified himself as like a ace pitcher in the show. Like go look at what he did in 2023 and what he did this year. Like he was awesome, and he's got that dog in him, which is fun to see. In the end, it was kind of the bullpen getting overexposed. A few managerial decisions I thought that were interesting. I don't think you can just call them horrible. I'm talking about, I mean, there's a couple of bats that come to mind. Giancarlo not getting walked and Cade Smith pitching to him. He pops Tanner Bybee pitching to Giancarlo again, and he pops him. Vogt's a guy that really has his team's back, and he wants to be a player's guy. I think there are some times where you just got to say, hey, look, man, it's the playoffs, and this guy's really hot right now. Let's just not pitch to him. But I thought the Guardians they put together a very good season. I think they fought very hard against these Yankees. It was just the Yankees had some big moments in this series. What's your thoughts on the Guardians this year?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to be upset as a Guardians fan. I know that you want to win it all, just like Mets fans are probably feeling too. But to get to this point when they had no expectations to even make the playoffs this year in a transition year is really cool. They're in good hands with Stephen Vogt. His post-game presser, I thought, was just really well put, very eloquent. The one quote that stuck with me was, about some of those bullpen decisions that he was getting asked about. He said, learn the lesson, leave the event. Don't linger in that moment. Learn from it and come back better. And I think that's, just a lot of wisdom from a rookie manager. I think that's really cool. And for the Guardians, what I will say is that I think we can all agree that their bullpen was their greatest asset. But for this team to ever get over the hump, the bullpen just needs to be an additional asset. Like, you think of great bullpens that have gone all the way. You think of the 2015 Royals. That team also had a 1 through 9 lineup that was fantastic, where everyone contributed. They had good starting pitching like Johnny Cueto and James Shields. The Guardians have the bones of a championship team, but they're going to need more. And I think that was what you saw in this 5-game series, a series that I considered way more contentious and close than the NLCS, even though it was 1 game shorter. Every game here was a 3-run margin or less. Like, the Guardians were involved in all of these games. And whether you want to say it was them not being able to get the big hit or their bullpen not coming through, the bones of this team is good. I know that they're probably going to lose Josh Naylor in free agency, and they're going to have some, things to evaluate going forward. But there's a lot of talent on this team, and you could tell watching these games that, it was no fluke that they got here. This team belonged in the spotlight and certainly had the talent to get this done. I'm hoping that there's no small market BS with Cleveland in this offseason. This is a season you should look at and say, okay, we can build on this here and make something of this and take over the AL Central like we did in the 2010s with the right couple of moves. But those moves need to be made because as it stands, I don't think they have the firepower to take down the Titans of the American League with just their bullpen alone. So a lot to learn from this series, but also a lot to be proud of for Guardians fans.
Yeah, I mean, their thing all season long was hitting with runners in scoring position. I know the bullpen was – I mean, they were overused. That's the bottom line. And if this is what I think, Charlie. Think about if the Guardians made the moves in the offseason that the Royals did.
Yeah.
Like going and getting those starters. Those guys were like – they didn't spend a lot of money on those guys. Like those are moves that the Guardians with – whatever, I don't know why teams even have payroll like issues. They shouldn't. I'm just telling you that right now, okay?
Right.
If they made those moves, I think we are talking like completely different. I think the Guardians are probably in the World Series. Like if they could have those innings back, lessen the burden on the bullpen throughout the season, keep them fresher for the postseason. Just have guys basically, they just needed some starting pitching too. I think in the end that was kind of what it was. But they made some great moves during the season, bringing it over Leighton Thomas, who had some big hits for them. Josh Naylor still one more year with the.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah, he's got ARB eligible one last year. So shout out to the Guardians, man. Like a hell of a run. But it was the Yankees series. Giancarlo ends up winning NLCS MVP. It's something ridiculous. Like he's got 8 hits at Progressive Field, and they're all homers or something like that.
Hall of Famer.
I say it too. I think
no question.
I think he's going to get to 500 homers.
There is no debate. He is a Hall of Famer.
Like not already, he's not.
No, not right now. But he's going to keep playing, and he's going to be a Hall of Famer.
I think so too. We've had that discussion quite a few times, and I'm on that side as well. For the Yankees, they lost their last 5 ALCS appearances prior to Saturday. Only one Yankee starter gave the team 5 innings in the ALCS, so they also relied heavily on their bullpen. The relievers pitched 38 and two-thirds innings out of 82 and two-thirds. That's 46.7%, Jolly. So their bullpen is taxed. These days off are going to be good for them. They've kind of found a little lane there. Tommy Canley throwing a bunch of changeups. Weaver gets snake bit once, but shows moxie and comes back and is the guy again. So like and Clay Holmes, I think, just needs a little bit of rest. The sinker was good for a while, then he started leaving it up and it wasn't sinking as much. So I think the rest is going to be really good for the Yankees. And again, we're going to get into this matchup, Yankees Dodgers, which is, I think, very, very good for baseball. Some people don't think that, and I think those people just are jealous, essentially. That's the bottom line right here. We haven't – I guess we'll get into it just a little bit. We never get this. This isn't a sport where it's like heavyweight. That doesn't happen. In the postseason, it just doesn't happen. Parity is king in the playoffs in baseball. It's not like the NBA. Even it's not like the NFL. The Chiefs have been – back-to-back Super Bowls. It just doesn't happen. So just enjoy it for what it's worth, people.
Yeah, I think what I saw was the last time it was 2-1 seeds was 2020, which the last time the 2 MVPs faced off in the World Series was 2012. Buster Posey versus Miguel Cabrera. It's been over 10 years since the best player in both leagues matched up in the World Series. That's pretty special.
I believe the Yankees Dodgers hasn't matched up since '81. There's a lot of things. Yankees haven't been in the World Series since 2009, so very happy for the Yankees. Great series, and to clinch the series, there was a guy named Juan Soto, who's 25 years old. He's turning 26 on Friday, Game 1 of the World Series. He had arguably the at-bat of his life, Jolly. Check this out. Okay, there's no sound, so we're just going to talk about this. Hunter Gaddis, who's a guy that throws 3 pitches. He's slider, he's four-seamer, and he's changeup. And in this at-bat, you just see Juan Soto, okay. I mean, he does that a lot. He's always like, yeah, I got you, bro, I got you. Changeup, sliders, all these things. And then Gaddis tries to get him with a high heat. Not a bad pitch if we're being honest, but Juan Soto goes and gets it. 95 up and away, and somehow he's able to get the barrel on it, and he's obviously pumped up. I mean, it's the 10th inning, man. He understands that he probably just sent his team to the World Series, and what a freaking moment it was. When you're facing a guy like Juan Soto, you have to be so perfect. He's spitting on pitches that most other hitters would swing at, and you think you make that pitch. And again, I'll say it, that is not a bad pitch, dude. Up and away, top of the zone. He's got a good fastball, 96 miles an hour. But Juan Soto's just different, man, and he goes and gets it. I guess I don't really have a question for you. Were you watching? Did you see it? What are your reactions to the Juan Soto homer?
Oh, I was watching. I was watching most of this ALCS, honestly. Okay. Here's what I'll say. This at-bat is all Juan Soto needs to bring to any meeting he has in the winter when he asks for a blank check, because this is it. Most important at-bat of the entire year for the Yankees. Gaddis is one of the best relievers in baseball with 3 nasty pitches. On 1-2, I thought Gaddis threw his best pitch of the at-bat, that crazy winding changeup that curved in and then landed at the bottom of the zone, pinpoint, and Soto just wastes it. And then the high heat pitch, 95 above the zone, outer half, is a great pitch. You were saying not a bad pitch. I think that's a great pitch, and it's Juan Soto, so it doesn't matter. This is exactly why teams are going to be upending their payroll for the next 10 years in an attempt to get this guy. It's this at-bat right here because he's made for the moment. He did it when he was 18 years old in 2019 against Justin Verlander. And shocker, guys, 5 years later, he's better because he's only going to continue to get better. He's only 26. Like, what are we even talking about here? Of course this was going to happen. Just a remarkable at-bat and a remarkable season for him. And this is the kind of guy that you not only want on your team for the 162, this is the guy you want on your team in October. Like, a lot of guys are great in the regular season, just sometimes can't get it done in October. Not going to name names. This is a guy that will get it done every game of the season that he's wearing the uniform. Obviously, really want him on my team. The bidding war is going to be interesting, but I'm this at bat makes it so hard to visualize Juan Soto ever wearing a different uniform.
Dan, get that back up, and I want you to stop it on the last pitch. So get to the fastball, and I want you to stop it as like the pitch is coming, like when he's like striding, if you can.
It's a big ask.
Like right now. You got more, a little more. Okay, so perfect. You had it. So when I talk about hitting high fastballs, that's something that has come in right there is perfect. Something that's come into the game, over the last 10, 15 years, the importance of throwing a pitch at the top of the zone. For many years it was thought, hey, let's get one down at the knees, let's get in the hit ground balls. And then, through the data and just, people thinking a little bit smarter, like, hey, man, like there's a lot of swing and miss at the top of the zone. It used to be like a waste pitch, whatever it is. Now guys are trying to throw many different pitches at the top of the zone. And my way to combat that, or at least, kind of what I've been taught is posture. And essentially, like, you kind of got to get up a little bit and so you can get your bat on that path. Juan Soto's like different. Like you see him crouching down here. And when I'm looking at this, I'm like, there's no way that he can get his barrel to that ball. Like it looks right now like he's going to swing underneath that ball, but then run it, Dan. He doesn't go underneath that ball. His barrel is right there. So his ability to cover, not only in and out, but up and down as well. Like he's a complete hitter. And even if you are perfect against him, he's going to get the barrel to the ball more often than not, and that's why he is who he is. Now has 2 game-tying or go-ahead home runs in the 8th inning or later of potential postseason clinching games. It's tied for the most in postseason history with Johnny Bench and a couple awesome names here, Brian Jordan and Juan Uribe. Go talk to some baseball players about what Juan Uribe is famous for. I'm telling you.
Wasn't Brian Jordan also a football player? Did I have that mixed up?
I think he was. I think you're right about that. Here's some stuff on Gaddis. He allowed 4 homers in the regular season. 3 of the 4 were against left-handers and with the fastball. So, we're thinking about it was a good pitch. I don't know. Maybe it wasn't. He gave up a home run to Judge as well in the ALCS, and that was a high fastball as well. But this guy was a dog all season like we were talking about. The 3rd lowest ERA in the regular season out of 160 relievers with 50 or more innings pitched with a 1.57. I think in the end, like we talked about, the Guardians bullpen just did get a little overexposed, kind of ran out of steam. The pitches weren't as sharp. But I think you do have to give credit to the Yankees hitters for coming through and them finding their bullpen lane. Like I said, Yankees fans, you're probably not getting, everything you wanted out of this episode, but we are going to sit down, preview this World Series against the Dodgers. And man, I'm very, very excited to do that. Before we get to the last segment of the show, I want to tell you guys, the World Series is coming. And I've already looked at ticket prices, and oh my gosh, you like that one, Jolly. You're going to need this code that we're going to give you. We have a special announcement to celebrate the playoffs. SeatGeek, the official ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, is giving all of you 10% off your next purchase with code JOHNBOYPLAYOFFS10. Right now, walk-in price to Game 1 of the World Series is over $1,000. So SeatGeek's going to save you $100 just by using code JOHNBOYPLAYOFFS10. It doesn't matter what you're buying or if you're bought on SeatGeek before. Code JOHNBOYPLAYOFFS10 is going to hook you up. That's JOHNBOYPLAYOFFS10 for 10% off your next SeatGeek purchase. You'll thank us later, even if you're like Jolly and you're sad and your team's not going to be there. Maybe you go see a Broadway play and cry a little bit. I don't know. You can use John Boy Playoffs 10 for anything that SeatGeek has there. It's going to get you 10% off I think he should use it, save some money, and go see something fun. To end the show, we are going to I think this is really cool. Dream come true. I think a lot of us, when we were younger, we dream of playing in, professional baseball. I certainly did. I dreamed of playing in the World Series. Didn't even get to go in the playoffs.
Damn.
But for one
every time
guy,
you say that, it bums me out, dude.
It bums me out too, Joel. I think about it literally every day of my life, and that is not an exaggeration. I think about that every day of my life. I did not get to play in the playoffs. It hurts. It hurts. I just push it down a lot. And one day it's going to boil over. I don't know when that day is going to be.
Jesus.
For this guy, though, Anthony Volpe, 2009, at the World Series parade with his family. Who knows? At that point, is he what do kids really think about? I just said, yeah, you dream about playing the World Series. You dream about playing video games, dude, or like Becky down the hall. Like, is she going to give you a Valentine? I don't know what you're dreaming about. But maybe Volpe was.
Such an old sentence, bro. Becky's gonna
maybe
give
Volpe
you a
was saying
Valentine.
one day I'm going to be the starting shortstop for the Yankees, and here he is. And in fact, we have a couple of these, man. My guy Jack Flaherty grew up a Dodger fan, growing up, going to Dodger Stadium with his mom. And I don't know if a lot of people know this about Jack. I mean, he was adopted. His mom raised him and would take him to these games, and he did have that mentality, man. That guy's known what he's wanted to do for a long time. So he's now suiting up for his hometown team. Volpe's suiting up for his hometown team. And I think a lot of times, Jolly, we forget, like, these guys are just kids that, like, were good at baseball and they're still playing. Like, they're still, like, these are just regular old people. And for guys like Volpe and guys like Flaherty, what a treat it must be to represent your hometown team, like, on the biggest stage, and who knows what's going to happen. I am so excited for this World Series, and if you can't get excited for this, I don't know what to tell you. I don't care if your team got eliminated like the Mets or the Guardians. Let's have some fun with this. Big marketplace, who cares? This is going to be a World Series of epic proportions, man, and I thought that was really cool to see. Old Volpe in 2009 right there.
Well put.
That's all I got. We're going to figure out, by the way, let's just thank everyone for Jolly for coming on day after getting eliminated. He's got some fun planned for right after this episode. We're going to figure out our schedule. We'll kind of keep everyone updated. We'll probably put it out on Chris Rose Sports, all the socials, what we're going to do. Most likely it's going to be a World Series preview on Wednesday, and then just getting giddy on Friday for the game. I think Jolly's going to be with us for both of those. So once again, thank you to SeatGeek, John Boy Playoffs 10. Thank you to Jolly for joining us. Producer Dan's here. We will see you Wednesday for our World Series preview.
Yo. Yeah.